Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron and I are going to talk about a possible career that some of you might choose as an interpreter. Aaron, I assume that you're from Canada, right? So
That's
you speak both English and French, right?
Well, I used to speak French. I don't speak French very much anymore, so...
Okay.
When I was young, yes. No.
Well, have you ever done any French to English interpreting before?
Not interpreting, but I did take school in French, and so since my first language is English, I had to do a lot of translation for my projects and my papers. And computers were really new back then, so we didn't have Google Translate and that stuff. So it was all just from the brain, and it was pretty tough.
So you had to sort of think on your feet then.
Yes.
That's if you're doing interpretation, though, but you're talking about doing translation, which is in the written form, right? But interpretation is when you actually have to speak. You hear what somebody says, and then you have to translate it in a spoken form.
Right, that's into Chinese or French, or I actually do have friends who do this, and it's really difficult. They have to know everything about what the person is talking about and all of the words that belong to that particular topic sort of thing. Yeah.
It sounds like it's pretty difficult, but that is the subject of today's lesson, interpreting, translating the spoken word. So, hey, everybody, let's get to it. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now, and then we'll come back to talk about it.
Imagine winning a medal and then being asked, "Why did you prepare for this match?" Odd as this may sound, this actually happened to Ai Fukuhara after she won the bronze medal for Japan in the 2010 World Table Tennis Championships. An English-speaking reporter interviewed Fukuhara after her victory with the help of an interpreter, who mistranslated both the questions to Fukuhara and everything she said in response. As a result, the interview was disastrously uncomfortable and has since gone viral. Interpreters translate the spoken word from one language to another. Usually, this is done in order to facilitate a conversation between two people who don't share a common language. Many people believe that speaking two languages fluently makes them qualified to be an interpreter. But this is not entirely true. Interpreters generally specialize in a certain field, whether it is business, politics, sports, or something else. This is critical as they must thoroughly understand the subject matter at hand, along with the language being spoken. However, since not every interpreting case they take will relate to their area of expertise, it's essential for them to keep learning about various subjects. If you want to pursue a career as an interpreter, you need the ability to think on your feet. Interpretation is a fast-paced process in which you'll need to convert languages on the spot. Two other important skills an interpreter should possess are confidence and the ability to concentrate. You can't be afraid of giving impromptu speeches in front of large groups of people and need to concentrate and remember everything someone says. If all these characteristics describe you, who knows? Someday you might have a bright future in the world of professional interpreting.
Okay, everybody, let's dive right in and talk about interpreting, translating the spoken word. That's what interpreting is when you translate in a spoken form. Now, here in the first sentence, it says, imagine winning a medal and then being asked, why did you prepare for this match? That does sound like a strange question.
Right.
So you'd have to imagine this if you won a medal. That's what you win if you're in some kind of athletic competition, right?
Right. So why did you prepare for this match? I mean, it says in the next sentence, odd as this may sound, this actually happened to Ai Fukuhara after she won the bronze medal for Japan in the 2010 World Tennis Championships. Now, she won the bronze medal. That means she won third place. But the interpreter asked her, why did you prepare for this match? It does sound odd. It sounds really strange. I mean, I wouldn't ask that question. Now, she's in Japan for the 2010 World Table Tennis Championship, and she had an English-speaking reporter talking to her.
Exactly. So that's not really the question you would ask. I'm guessing they meant, how did you prepare for this match? What kind of training did you do, etc., etc.? What kind of exercises did you do? Who was your coach, etc.? How did you prepare for this match? But why did you prepare for this match? You know, of course, I prepared for this match so that I could win it.
Win it? Yep.
Yeah, that's the reason. It's an obvious question there. Odd here just means unusual or strange. So even though this sounds strange, this actually happened to a table tennis player by the name of Ai Fukuhara way back in 2010. She got the bronze medal, which, as you said, Aaron, is third place. First place, of course, is gold, and second place is silver. And this happened again way back in 2010. And we've got this English-speaking reporter who interviewed Fukuhara after her victory with the help of an interpreter. So there's the noun there, interpreter.
Right. So the verb interpret and the noun interpreter. So the interpreter is the person who does the translating from the spoken word. It says the interpreter mistranslated both the questions to Fukuhara and everything she said in response. So mistranslated is the opposite of translate. It means to translate wrong or to make a mistake when she's translating. The prefix mis means the opposite. So when you say translate, that's the verb, and mistranslate is to do the opposite of that.
Do it incorrectly, misuse, for example, to not use something properly. And so mistranslate means she both did the questions and the answers wrong. Okay, so basically, if you were fluent in Japanese and English, you could probably tell that, hey, that's not what she said.
Right.
She has mistranslated this. What kind of person did they find to do the interpretation there? She's very unprofessional, or he or she, I don't know what gender the interpreter was. But again, both the questions and the responses were mistranslated.
Right. So as a result, the interview was disastrously uncomfortable and has since gone viral. Well, we see the adverb disastrously here, which is basically saying that it was a disaster. It was terribly uncomfortable, and it was really awkward for both the reporter and the interpreter and Ai Fukuhara. It was all caught on video. And it's gone viral. That means it was picked up by social media, and it's now been seen by millions of people around the world.
It has. You can probably find it on YouTube if you cue in or enter some specific search words there. So again, disastrously means causing great damage. As you said, it's an adverb. Disastrously uncomfortable for both the interpreter and the athlete herself, and has since gone viral, and that just means everybody knows about it. It's all over the place, especially the internet. Now, let's go on here to the next paragraph and talk about what exactly interpreters are and what they do. It says, interpreters translate the spoken word from one language to another, and most commonly here in Taiwan, the interpreters you would see would be translating Chinese to English and vice versa.
So this is usually done in order to facilitate a conversation between two people who don't share a common language. Facilitate means to make something easier, to make things go along faster in the way that they need to do that. And because with people who don't speak the same languages, they may not understand each other, what they're talking about, and so the interpreter comes in and makes that easier for them.
Exactly. Facilitate just means to make something easy or easier. Facilitate, that's interesting because the word fácil or fácil in Spanish means easy. So that's a Latin origin there. Facilitate, to make something easy. You want to facilitate this conversation between people because they do not share a common language. And as I said before, you probably commonly seen English being translated or interpreted to Chinese and vice versa. But you know, if somebody from Korea comes to Taiwan, they'll need an interpreter who is fluent in both Korean and Chinese or whatever. Sometimes you might even need an interpreter here in Taiwan if someone like myself is trying to talk to somebody elderly down south because they don't speak Mandarin.
Right, they speak Taiwanese.
Yeah, and I don't speak any Taiwanese, just a few words here and there. So I might need an interpreter to communicate with those people.
All right, well, many people believe that speaking languages fluently makes them qualified to be an interpreter, but this is not entirely true. So even if you don't speak these two languages that you're interpreting, or even if you do speak them fluently, you know English really well, you know French really well, or Chinese, or the language that you're speaking really well, fluently means that you know these languages, you can speak, understand, read these perfectly. It doesn't mean that you can be an interpreter.
Exactly, and fluently here again is an adverb. You speak fluently. I speak English fluently, but I wouldn't say that I speak Chinese fluently.
No, I'm the same.
I'm still working on it even after being in Taiwan for 20 years. But the word fluently, again, as we said, is an adverb. And fluent is the adjective. You could also say, oh, I'm fluent in Chinese. I'm fluent in Taiwanese. I'm fluent in Hakka or whatever. So yes, even though you might be fluent in one or two languages or two or three languages, you think, oh, it would be easy for me to be an interpreter. But as we're going to find out in just a couple of seconds, this is not entirely true. That would be just one qualification there. There are some other things that you need to keep in mind if you want to pursue a career as an interpreter. But right now we're going to take a little bit of a break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天来谈论的主题呢是跟 interpreting 跟翻译有关系。首先在第一个空格后面的句子写着 This actually happened to Ai Fukuhara after she won the bronze medal for Japan in the 2010 World Table Tennis Championships. 在这里的故事呢指的是这个福原爱，她在为日本赢得西元2010年的世界桌球锦标赛之后接受访问，而这样子的口译人员呢却呢出了一个大包，他翻译的非常的奇怪，还问人家 Why did you prepare for this match? 你为什么要为这场比赛做准备呢？这样子的问题是不是听起来很奇怪呢？所以搭配文意跟正确的文法句型，第一个的空格我们可以选择 D 选项的 odd as this may sound。 在这里呢我们把形容词 odd 奇怪的放在句首，有强调的作用，而 as 就解释成为尽管虽然。另外一个用法你可以说 although this may sound odd。 所以第一题正确答案我们就选 D 选项。而这样子的翻译呢，不仅呢翻错了记者的提问，也错翻了这个福原爱所有的回答。延续文意，第二个空格后面的句子写着 The interview was disastrously uncomfortable and has since gone viral。 这样子的一个访问啊，真的是可以说是一场灾难啊。而从那个时候开始呢，这样的访问就爆红。在英文里面呢，我们可以说 go viral 就是像在网络上突然红了起来，而这一切都是因为这个口译人员所犯的错误，前面的原因造成后面的结果，这里有因果关系。第二题的标准答案就可以选择 A as a result 解释成为因此。其他的选项 B in contrast 与什么成对比， C at any rate无论如何， D in addition 此外都不符合文意。 接着我们来看到第3个空格的句子。Many people believe that speaking 2 languages fluently makes them blank 3 to be an interpreter, but this is not entirely true. 在这里谈到呢，许多人都相信 speaking 2 languages fluently， 如果呢你可以很流利的说2种语言，就会使得他们怎么样 to be an interpreter， 可以成为一个口译人员。然而这却不完全是正确的。我们来看一下第3题，是要针对 qualify 这个动词来做变化。qualify 当作动词有合乎资格的意思，而 make 后面加受词，就是这样子的人是合乎资格成为一名口译人员。我们可以选择 B 选项的 qualified， 就代表着合乎资格的意思。所以第3题的正确答案我们就选择 B 选项。
We're going to take a short break now, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, everybody. I'm here with Aaron, who is substituting for Stephanie today. And we are talking about interpreting or wanting to pursue a job as an interpreter. Have you ever thought about doing this yourself, Aaron?
No, not personally. Languages aren't really my thing. Even though I'm an English teacher, I can interpret English pretty well for English speakers, but languages aren't really my thing. I've also been in Taiwan for a long time, and I'm still working on the Chinese, and even I lived in the South for many years. I haven't been able to pick up Taiwanese at all. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, and while I did used to speak French, I've lost that completely. So,
we'll probably come back to you again if you go to Quebec or something like that.
Yeah.
But in any case, again, we're talking about interpreters. And where we left off, we said that if you're able to speak 2 languages fluently, well, you might think that qualifies you to be an interpreter, but again, this is not necessarily true.
That's correct.
Interpreters generally specialize in a certain field, whether it is business, politics, sports, or something else.
Okay.
So the example we had before would require someone to specialize in sports, okay? They would have to know about sports in general, but more specifically about table tennis, which is also known as ping pong. So if you're going to interpret for someone winning the medal from Japan, most of the medal winners in ping pong or table tennis come from China, so you might want to interpret from Chinese to English to French to Spanish to Japanese, whatever.
So it says that they need to specialize in these fields, be it business. So if you're interpreting for someone in business, you'll need to know a lot of terms about money, about trading, all these different things. And for politics, about international diplomacy and these kinds of things. And this is critical. It's really, really important. That's what critical means. It's necessary to know for what you're doing, as they must thoroughly understand the subject matter at hand, along with the language being spoken. So they don't even need to know the language perfectly. They need to understand thoroughly what's happening in this field. So thoroughly means to know something in and out, all of the basic tenets of it, and even more the subject matter at hand, so the topics that you're speaking about at that moment.
Exactly. It's critical. It's extremely important. It's crucial. It's key. Critical, I suppose, if you're trying to interpret for someone playing table tennis, you not only need to know about how the sport itself works, but about the history and winners in the past and stuff like that, and manufacturers of equipment and the origin of the game, how the ball works, maybe some of the science involved. involved and how the ball bounces and stuff. Yep, that's all critical because you need to completely, totally, 100% thoroughly understand the subject matter, the thing that you're having to deal with right in front of you. It's at hand. And also you got to know the language as well, all the terms as well. How do you say racket in the language? How do you say ball?
Right.
How do you say net? How do you say table, champion, etc.? All that stuff you need to know. Plus, you need to have a complete understanding of the sport itself. However, since not every interpreting case they take will relate to their area of expertise, it's essential for them to keep learning about various subjects. Essential here just means very important.
That's another word, just like critical. It's necessary for you to do. So, not only will you need to know if you interpret for sports, know everything about that sport, but you might not be asked to interpret for sports every time. You may be asked to interpret for another topic, and that means you need to know about those subjects too. So it's a job where you're constantly learning. It's a lot of work. Now, if you want to pursue a career as an interpreter, you need the ability to think on your feet. Now, we touched on this a little bit in the introduction. You need to think on your feet. That means you need to know what you're doing as you're doing it. You don't have the ability to go look up in a dictionary or use Google to help you. You need to be able to know what you're doing as you're doing it.
Exactly. It kind of means that you cannot hesitate at all. You need to act immediately after someone says something. You need to step in there and translate, interpret what they said without any hesitation at all. So yes, indeed, you need to think on your feet. Interpretation is a fast-paced process in which you'll need to convert languages on the spot. It's very fast-paced, which means it moves quickly. There are some sports that are very fast-paced. I suppose people think that basketball and ice hockey are very fast-paced sports, whereas, say, baseball or something like that, or cricket, those sports are very slow-paced.
All right, well, if you're doing it on the spot, that's kind of similar to thinking on your feet. You're doing it at that moment. So think about how quickly a basketball game moves, and that's how quickly you would have to translate or interpret what the people are doing or saying.
Yep, you have to do it right then and there.
Now, there's two other important skills an interpreter should possess, which are confidence and the ability to concentrate. Now, confidence, you can't be nervous when you're doing this. So you have to know what you're doing, be confident in yourself, and you need the ability to concentrate or focus. Concentrate means to think about what you're doing. And now if you're thinking about things on the spot, you have to be able to do that quickly. And if you're not focused on what's happening, you're not going to pay attention. And you're not going to know what's happening.
Right, so yes, indeed, you need that confidence, which means you have a strong belief in yourself. You could say, I am very confident about myself. And also the ability to concentrate, to focus, to not get distracted, to not daydream and stuff like that. And that pretty much rules me out right there.
Okay.
I would not be qualified because I don't really have the ability to concentrate or to focus. I get distracted pretty easily.
All right.
And you can't be afraid of giving impromptu speeches in front of large groups of people. And you need to concentrate and remember everything someone says. Now, here in this sentence, we have the word impromptu. What exactly does that mean, Aaron?
Well, impromptu means that it may happen without you knowing that it's going to happen. So if you're at an event and you don't expect to get up on stage, but someone says, oh, hey, Tom, we'd like you to come up on stage and give a speech, and you're not prepared for that, it's an impromptu speech.
Exactly. That kind of reminds me of a debate club. When I was in high school, we had to give impromptu speeches. They would basically tell you maybe a minute ahead of time what your subject was going to be, and then you would have to go up there and give your speech.
Right, so you have to know what you're talking about beforehand. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, so if you're asked to interpret for somebody and then they suddenly start talking about mid-16th century French poets or something like that, you're going to have to know a little bit about that in order to be able to interpret properly. So, yes, indeed, you can't be afraid of giving those impromptu speeches. You need to have broad language about all sorts of topics and be ready to concentrate and remember everything that everyone else says.
All right, well, now, if all of these characteristics describe you, who knows? Someday you might have a bright future in the world of professional interpreting. So, what about your abilities with language? Maybe you speak Chinese and English really well. Are you quick on your feet? Can you think really quickly? Can you concentrate well? Do you know a lot of stuff about the world? Then this job might actually be perfect for you. And we see the adjective professional here. That means that you could do this as a job. You could get paid for it and maybe travel to do this and do this for businesses or other companies. So think about it. This might be the career for you.
Indeed, but I understand that doing interpretation is quite exhausting, so keep that in mind. If you like a challenge both mentally and physically, well, maybe interpretation is something you might consider. So there you go. There you have it. That's today's subject for today. It's time once again to listen to our Chinese teacher.
接着我们来看到第4个空格的句子写着 Interpreters generally specialize in a certain field. 事实上这些口译人员呢，他们是专长于某一个特定的领域。Blank for it is business, politics, sports, or something else. 而这样的领域呢，好，不管是商业、政治、运动或其他的，都是某一个特定的专长领域。搭配文意，第4题可以选择 C 选项的 weather 解释成为不管是，而其他的选项都不符合文意。接着来看到第5题 However, since not every interpreting case they take will relate to their area of blank 5, it's essential for them to keep learning about various subjects. 既然并不是每一次所接到的这个口译的案子呢，都可以跟他们的领域相关，所以很重要的就是这些口译人员要一直学习，尤其是涉猎不一样的主题。我们来看一下第5题 A. Compromise 妥协和解 B. Fulfillment 完成履行 C. Suspicion 怀疑 D. Expertise 专门知识。由于他们所接的 case 可能不跟自己擅长的专门领域有关，所以当然要持续的学习咯。所以搭配文意，第5题的标准答案我们选择 D。 第6题 Two other important skills an interpreter should blank 6 are confidence and the ability to concentrate. 还有另外2个想要成为口译人员所要怎么样的技巧，就是要有自信，还要能够有专注的能力。第6题 A 选项 possess 拥有具备 B contribute 捐助 C declare 宣布D. Encounter 遭遇，他们需要拥有的技术跟技巧，所以第6题的标准答案就选择 A. Possess。 第7个空格 If all these blank 7 describe you， 如果刚刚讲到的这一切都是怎么样来描述你，那也许有一天你就非常适合走上这个专业的口译领域哦。第7题 A. Destinations 目的地B. Characteristics 特质 C. Assignments 作业 D. Accessories 配件。刚刚讲的都是当作口译人员的特质，所以搭配文意，第7题的标准答案我们就选择 B. Characteristics。 OK， 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
That's it for today's lesson. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
And I'm Erin.
Goodbye.
See you later.